All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another trade recap. Sorry for the lack of uploads, but unfortunately, the market just hasn't been moving for New York AM session, which is my normal trading session. So there really hasn't been much to cover. And I also haven't organized any of the other video ideas just yet. But going to get that together with one of my partners here soon. So do stay tuned for that. But let's get straight into this recap for today. Now, it has been requested that I do these recaps in replay mode to show, how my trades are playing out and how my thought process is playing out in real time. And I did like that idea, so we're going to go ahead and give it a shot today. So this is our 8 a.m. obviously pre-market before we had the open today on NQ. So before the open, right, looking at the hourly, we do have some pretty contradicting confluences, kind of contradicting price action. You could very well get stuck looking to have a bias towards either end. So let's break it all down now. So basically, we could see here in London, we had this, move up here, which you could look at as a form of manipulation. You could see here for Asia, we did, kind of have this consolidation here, right? And then we had London make a nice strong move up, taking out previous day high as well as these internal range highs. Now you'll notice here as well, we do have an SMT with ES at this point at these internal range highs. If we zoom out here, you guys can see that SMT plotted here. Still intact. Obviously, it's marking it out on our current candle, but right here is where we took out those highs, and you can see the SMT there in play. So coming back here to NQ, what I can see coming off of, these sweeps of buy side and coming off of, these clear wicks rejecting off of the sweeps is, this big hourly gap. So basically, what I would want to see if, price is going to hold bullish into these higher time frame or, higher buy side levels, I'm going to want to see that hourly gap hold because, for an expansion at this point, we should hold continuation. We should hold these retraces in order to go higher. And coming into the market today, we could see our 7 a.m. candle ended up flipping this hourly gap. So that was kind of my first, point of interest coming into the open. That led me to believe we could end up going short for the day potentially. But I still wasn't, 100% full conviction on short just because we did have this 1 hour gap down here. And you can see here in the pre-market inside of that gap, we do end up, holding. We are rejecting that gap towards the upside, making, London and this internal high here, possible targets on the day. At this point here, we had also sold off below our true day open. So, are technically in a discounted area in accordance to that opening price. And then also, made a pretty strong wick down towards the midnight open as well. So let's go ahead and scale down to lower time frames and explain a little bit more of what I saw for today. So again, this is our, pre-market structure, and I see that we have this hourly above here, right? So at this point, I have an hourly marked out. This candle at 8 a.m. closes, and we form this hourly gap. So let me go ahead and play one candle forward here. All right. So now this is 9 a.m. So we have this hourly gap up here now at this point, and we also have this 15-minute gap. So, for me to see long, I need to see us start trading above both of these levels in order to entertain the idea of going higher into London. And, if we take our fib tools here and look at where a potential retrace could take place, we can notice that, we could see a definite, a definite reaction out of, this equilibrium level where these gaps lay in price. So we have this 15-minute, this 1 hour, and, equilibrium pretty much in between those, right? So let's go ahead and play into our market open. So those are now our conditions coming into the market open. So let's go ahead and play price here on the 5-minute time frame. We'll actually update this by 1 minute intervals. So this is 9:20 at this point. Play this forward. 9:25. Go to the 1 minute here. So now at this point, I have my confluences marked out, right? So now I'm just looking to see, what price is doing on a lower time frame in order to, take some form of precise entry. So I took 2 entries on the day. One was a break-even entry and one was a winner, and we'll go over both of those here. So here's your market open. So off the market open, right, we have this super strong candle, right, the super strong displacement candle. Now, at this point, I know a lot of people probably were like chasing longs, assuming, hey, this is just an opening breakout straight up into these London highs and maybe even these higher levels above it. But, in my opinion, this just wasn't a probable entry. And the reason for me was that I was more so viewing London as a potential manipulation. We took previous day high, we took out internal range highs, put in SMT as well, and then started to see, sell side of the curve start forming. We started to get into a sell side model. So we could see we're starting to sell off. At this point, I would assume any pops up to be potential retraces in price. Now, coming back to a 15-minute time frame and taking our fib tool down again, you'll notice here we come up perfectly into golden pocket in price, right? 0.705, which is, perfect golden pocket. At the same time, this wick right here can be used as a potential rejection block because this is a wick that came up, it swept out internal highs, right? Swept out liquidity and tapped into a confluence, right? We tapped into a fair value gap right here on the 15-minute. So this is a valid rejection block aligning with, fib levels. Now, this isn't something I've taught or really talked about before, and it's something that I'll break down more so within my Discord and with some of my students as well, because it's definitely more intricate. It takes a lot more, time to actually pinpoint when it's valid to use these fib levels and rejection blocks, but it's not a super key part of my trading, so definitely not something to be worried about. So getting back into this trade, yeah, this would not be a valid long, and I did not take this long because I wanted to see us short. So I wanted to see any kind of pop-up be a, manipulation move higher in order to short. So let's continue playing out price action. So we can see here, right, this looks very enticing to FOMO into to chase price, and I'm sure people did just that on the day. And for me to have even entertained taking this, honestly would have needed to see us come down into this 930 gap, and preferably right after this candle, come down into it, wick, and then get a very strong reaction towards London, right? Now at this point as well, we do have SMT with ES. As you can see, the indicator plots that out for you. And so boom. So we get this candle right here, and I did want to see this flip the 930 gap that we had right here in order to take entry. ES flipped it, NQ didn't, and I didn't really like that we failed to close. So I wanted to see a little bit more confirmation, so I kind of waited here, and then I ended up taking a short entry off of this candle here. So if we go up here, put my stops here, and then I was just targeting these pre-market lows on the day. Now, my initial bias and the original drawn liquidity that I wanted to see on the day for both of the pairs was Asia low, but we did have some weird things happen in price, which I'm going to break down as price plays out here. But I did want to see Asia lows into the 4-hour gap as a rebalance on the higher time frame for us to potentially start going higher out of that. But with the way that I saw price moving, honestly was just willing to take the low-hanging fruit, just take what was very clear, being these pre-market lows that were also stacked on top of the midnight open. So I took this trade here. I'm not sure if I'm able to... All right, I can do a position here. Obviously the fill is a little bit different. We can actually fix this here. Go ahead and select, and we'll take the right fill. So I took a position here, right? And I put my stops here above this displacement candle. Realistically, if price is going to start delivering from here, we have no reason to, come and displace and close above this, first presented for value gap right here. And then also no reason to start, trading towards this high of day. So this is a valid stop. As you can see, a 72-point stop. A lot of people will try and tighten their stops in these wide ranges, instead of taking their contract sizing down. It's very important to make sure your stop goes where your trading system needs it to go, or your trading model, whatever the case may be, instead of trying to lower the point size. So what I recommend, if you have a wide stop like this, is simply just cut the amount of contracts that you're using. If you typically use a mini, right, go to micros, cut that in half, use 5 micros or even less, and just cut your size down in order to keep yourself in the game and keep your risk managed. But yeah, this is the entry I took here. So let's go ahead and play this out. So we play price out here, and we can see super consolidated, right? Now, originally, I wanted to go break even here at these range lows, right? Now, I saw we made an SMT with ES at those range lows. However, I was not fully convinced that neither ES or NQ was going to fail to take this pre-market or this Asia low. One of them, in my opinion, had to come down and rebalance. So this SMT was something I faded. And on top of that, we put a relative equal low right here. So these aren't really SMTs that I'll really take into account, being that, NQ got super close to taking out this, internal draw. So we'll play this out. And you can see we get very close to getting stopped out, but ultimately, right, this gap here ends up holding, right? This stop ends up being protected because, you know, if price is truly going to hold bearish, this gap here should not fail, right? We should not come and close above this gap. Now, some people may have pre-fired and taken an entry here, although we did not close the first presented gap. And then you can see this next candle right after ends up giving strong displacement. So at this point now, my break even is still going to be this range low, and it's still going to be this internal low now. It's a perfect area to take risk off. And as you can see, the indicator marks out an internal SMT with ES inside of that first presented gap as well. So that's now a gap SMT. And then we're starting to get a little bit of delivery out of this. Now, very unfortunate, I entered on a really good, really good entry here, and then, got super choppy after that. But, just held through a conviction, and we'll kind of play this out. And again, this is the trade that got me break even. So at this point here, I moved my stops break even, right? After getting this sweep of this low here, low of day, and this internal range low. And then, we see this candle here, and I'm assuming we're going to get pretty clean moves now down towards the draw. So play out price, right? Price looks pretty good, right? Towards this area. Hold on, let me make sure. Oh, okay. I think I see what I did. All right. Sorry, so I was confused. For a second. I was trying to see where my entry was. So we end up making a 5-minute gap here at some point in price. And bear with me, guys, because this is replay. So I'm not used to just going on replay to explain my trades, trying to make sure that time aligns. But if I'm not mistaken, we made a 5-minute. So right here, I ended up getting break even, and not really, but technically I actually ended up closing like off of this candle's close. Like I just manually exited pretty much for a break even. It gave me like, I think $150 per, because I had a mini on. But ultimately this next candle would have broke me even to the exact tick. So that was the first trade. That was essentially a break even trade. And I'll show you guys my trade of 8 screen after this so you guys can see the executions and whatnot. But yeah, that was the first trade. Now my second trade came right after this, and again, like I mentioned, we had this 5-minute fair value gap, and we got a nice retrace up into the gap. This is a very good condition now in price where it's like, okay, are we going to take this range sweep, flip this gap higher, and start to trend back up towards high of day and the rest of these internal highs, or are we going to end up holding that gap bearish, getting some form of confirmation for entry? So for this trade, I won't be able to show you guys like the exact entry because I didn't enter on the exact close, but I entered during this candle. So I entered right at 949.50. So right here. And then I put my stop just at this internal high, simply just targeting this low. Now, this is where I'm going to explain to you guys how price got a bit weird today, because I did have some people send me this trade here, this exact trade, or just this TP area, and they didn't get filled. I also saw a couple videos of people who didn't get filled here. The reason that I was able to get filled is because you could see this entry right here was at 892, right? This TP was at 892 flat. Typically I like to put my TP either a point or like 2 ticks above. So 4 ticks makes a full point. I'll usually put it a point, like a couple ticks. And today I put my TP right at 892.50. So my TP was right here to the exact tick. So let's go ahead and play this out. This is a pretty clean, played out very nicely. This trade, I went break even right at this internal low here. So boom, once we swept that out, break even. Now this was like super sketchy because on this candle, I'm thinking we're just going to run my TP. This should be very free. And we come up and we tap into this 1 minute. Now my break even was literally somewhere right around here, inside that 1 minute, pretty much at perfect midpoint of that 1 minute gap. I was pretty certain I was going to get broke even here at this point. And then I saw we started to get some rejection, got a nice displacement, and I was pretty confident now this was going to hit. And then boom, right down here is where my TP ended up hitting, right? So like I mentioned to you guys, right, I put my TP perfectly at 892.5, and I'm going to show you guys that exact execution on my trade of 8. And you can see I got filled literally by probably perfectly a tick. Yep, by perfectly a tick, I got filled on TP. And we ended up edging that low, right? We made pretty much equal lows or relative equal lows right at that pre-market low I was targeting. And then from there, right, you would think, okay, we're going to resweep, take those equal lows. And from there, we just completely just bull run, right? Come all the way up. We end up even taking out London at this point, right? As you guys can see, insane, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys these executions. Now, these are lucid evals that I'm working on currently. Looking to hopefully pass them sometime this week. Definitely going to take a jab on CPI, get a good amount of the buffer out of the way, and then should have them done by Thursday. I'm also going to be adding some alpha zeros tomorrow that'll get passed. So we should look to have 8 accounts total to trade with coming into next week. 5 150s and 3 100Ks with alpha zeros. So here are the executions, right? This is the first entry I mentioned to you guys that I closed a little bit early for around 150-ish. So this is that entry here, right? Close right at the top of this candle closure, and then took my re-entry here, right? Which is pretty much like a break even. This is the re-entry, as you guys can see. Like I said, 94950 was my re-entry, and then my TP, like I said, was at 89250, right? So perfectly to a tick, got my TP, then we ended up just running. Didn't risk too heavy today, honestly. Only made about 1300 per, right? These are 150K evals, so obviously you would expect for me to be risking like 2500 plus. But really just been trying to kind of like let these market conditions settle. Hopefully we can get out of this huge daily range that we have been in. We swept out the bottom of the range and came back into it. Hopefully we can start expanding past the top of the range and start making moves. And then at that point, I can be far more risk on across the board. But today was definitely not a horrible day. But I could see if, you got chopped out or had a tough time executing in the markets today. This, chop here from the open into, 10 a.m. pretty much was very rough to sit through. But if you had a bearish bias today, you shouldn't have got, torched too bad or torched at all, maybe. If you were bearish today, you should have been able to take pretty similar entries to these and, been pretty green on the day, hopefully, or at least break even, which isn't bad at all. And then you can see, we came up with a huge expansion, took out, London, and then now, starting to range, right? So, yeah, I mean, that pretty much covers it for the recap, right? Just wanted to show you guys his executions. But yeah, today was kind of weird, right? I mean, this was perfectly to the tick, absolutely insane. That we made an equal low here, and then at the same time I know a lot of people didn't take these longs because these equal lows are here. We very well could have came right back down for a resweep in order to go higher, but if you did end up catching these longs, good work. I definitely may have caught something higher up once I saw a confirmation from the bottom here. I really did like this continuation off the 1 minute here up towards this London high. Would have been a really nice hold just to break even at the most recent, internal high right here, and then just allow it to run to London, tie break even, and see if we just, get continuation up. But yeah, guys, that pretty much covers the recap. I'm going to try to cover some more content in the future. This week, I want to work more in the Discord. If you guys need the Discord, you guys can drop a comment down below. I'll try to drop it as well in the description if I remember. So be sure to look out for that. It's going to be a free Discord, and there should be some nice value and content in there for you guys to work with. But other than that, hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.